Hey everyone, how's it going? Halo Infinite had its big update for Season 2, and in this video I'll be breaking down all of the major pieces of new content and giving my thoughts on it. There's a lot of content and changes made to the game with this update, so to avoid making this video several hours long, I'm just going to be covering the major content updates with this video. As much as I'd like to go into the miuccia about how the user interface changed from one spinning circle to another, it's not all that interesting, so we're just covering the big changes. If you want to read all about it, I'll leave a link to the full list of changes in the description, but for now, let's get into it. Let's start with the two new maps that were added. Catalyst is the new map for arena modes, and it plays really well. It's similar to Behemoth in terms of structure, but has far fewer open sightlines and a greater level of verticality to it. If you felt like the maps in Halo Infinite were too safe in terms of layout and aesthetics, you'll probably love this map. Speaking of aesthetics, the map itself is beautiful. The Forerunner look in this game has received nothing but praise, and this is a perfect example of it. It also has a great warm skybox that backdrops the opening of each match, which is just beautiful to look at. One problem I have with this map is when you play oddball on the map, you can basically reset the oddball at any time since the center doesn't have a floor and the outskirts of the map often have a ledge you can jump off of as the ball carrier. I don't like oddball on this map, but every mode I've tried plays really well. The map for Big Team Battle, Breaker, is also excellent. It also has an incredible look to it as the only desert themed map in Halo Infinite so far. One issue I have with this map is how Capture the Flag plays on it. I was only able to play CTF once on this map and the entire match stagnated since it's way too easy to camp with shock and stalker rifles on this side of the map and have the entire middle of the map locked down. Without a 12-man effort, it would be really difficult to make a push for the objective, which for a public random lobby is impossible, especially if people aren't using voice chats. I imagine most matches are going to go to time on this map for Capture the Flag, but for every other mode, it does play really well. Breaker is also the map where you can play the new Battle Royale style game mode called Last Spartan Standing. Going into this update, I assumed I wasn't going to like this mode. I've never really been a fan of any free-for-all modes, one-life modes, or Battle Royales in general, but after playing this mode for the narrative event, which we'll get into later, I've gotta say, I love it. It's one of my favorite ways to play Halo outside of Infection and King of the Hill. It's truly fantastic. It's like a mixture between a Battle Royale and something like Gun Game from Call of Duty, and it's a blast. I've already won 2 matches and I can consistently place in the top 3 after a bit of practice. As of recording this, the update is only a day or 2 old and I've already completed all of this week's challenges because I just can't get enough of this game mode. That being said, I've noticed my fair share of issues with the mode already. For starters, there's only one map. You can only play this mode on the new Big Team Battle map. I assume they'll add the rest of the Big Team Battle maps into this game mode with a future update, and that update can't come soon enough. As awesome as this mode is, it does need that map variety to keep things interesting long term. As for balance changes, I don't think overshields should be in this game. It basically ends up being an extra life since you can cheese your way out of a gunfight that you didn't deserve to win. The chances of going up against someone with overshield and winning when you don't have them is basically 0. I'm perfectly fine with active camo since you can see and hear where the other person is. Having active camo isn't always a free kill, whereas overshields, in my experience, is. I also think the weapon order needs to be changed. You spawn into the game with a disruptor and a sidekick, with the next 2 weapons being the mangler and then the assault rifle. The problem is that the mangler replaces the sidekick, which is by far the best weapon until you get the assault rifle. Having the mangler instead replace the disruptor would make the first upgrade actually worth it, since I always save my upgrade until I can get the assault rifle. The sidekick is just too good. The only other change I would like to see is how spawns work when the zone is closing in tight. You can spawn outside of a zone and then immediately start taking damage, and one time I spawned outside the zone and couldn't make it back inside the zone before dying. I think it should go without saying that shouldn't happen. Give players spawning outside the zone some invincibility time from the zone itself and not other players until they can make it into the zone, because otherwise you can end the game feeling you were cheated out of a win rather than ending the game with the climactic battle you, the other player, and the developers wanted. The other game mode that was added into Halo Infinite was King of the Hill, which is exactly what you thought it would be. I like that it's in the game now, and I have a ton of fun playing it. It might be my favorite respawn mode in Infinite, but it also should have been in the game since launch. With Season 2, we also get the start of the narrative the live service elements of this game are going to try and tell. It starts with 2 Spartan headhunters coming back from a mission. A brood AI has taken over the armor of one of them, and it's up to us to save the Spartan and trap the AI for information. I'm not going to judge the narrative early early on since it's just getting started, but right now I find it really hard to care about what's happening. None of the characters have any kind of backstory or characterization, at least that I'm aware of, and it makes it impossible for me to care about them and the narrative as a whole. I'm not writing it off just now since we just started, but right now I really couldn't care less. There's also a new battle pass with 2 new armor cores for people who are really into customization. I want to make my Spartan identical to how mine did in Halo Reach, so it's not super useful for me, but I imagine nobody else is trying to do that. The battle pass in and of itself is definitely an improvement over season 1's. There's not nearly as many challenge swaps, and instead there's actual content and currency that you can use in the shop, which is definitely nice. And that's everything in the game currently, but there's a lot more to come in the future, so let's take a minute to talk about all of that. The next planned content drop is an event called Fracture Entrenched, which is going to include the land grab game mode. That's set for May 24th. The narrative continues with a new event called Alpha Pack that starts on July 19th. I assume it'll be another cutscene with some kind of new playlist for a game mode we already have. There's also a target date in late August for the Campaign Network Co-op and Campaign Mission Replay. Nothing set in stone here, but I thought I'd mention it since they mentioned it. All of the content is good in and of itself, but there's 2 major issues I have with the season so far. First and foremost are all of the things the game desperately needs that weren't included in the update. A progression system, a fix for theater and custom games, missing modes like Infection and Griffball, and all of the content that should have been in the game at launch. The second major issue is that Season 2 was extended to 6 months, just like Season 1. You'll notice that there isn't any content listed for the second half of Season 2. Hopefully that's because the content isn't ready to be made public yet, and not because there's nothing planned for that 3-month stretch. But the length is the biggest issue with this season. The game was already content light when it launched, and only being 2 seasons into a game by the time it hits its 1-year anniversary shouldn't be acceptable. For as much as I'm enjoying the game right now and have enjoyed the game in the past, I've come to the conclusion for myself that the game should have absolutely been delayed another full year. That would have given the developers enough time to create all of the content the game needed for a proper launch and get them into the flow for post-launch support. Maybe they could have even launched with one or both of Campaign Co-op and Forge 2. I'm still having fun with the game, but I'm feeling like I'm going to max out the battle pass and not have a reason to play again until the 1-year anniversary. And I just don't want that. But those are just my thoughts. Of course, let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Like the video if you made it this far. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see more, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.